allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody. Board members, make sure your mics are on so folks can hear you. Hopefully summer gets here pretty quick, or spring, or whatever it is out there. It's kind of cold out there, so. Next week. Next week? I heard the weekend 70, so. Okay, so tonight everybody is present. You have the agenda before you. Is there any additions or deletions at this time? Bonnie?
Roll call still says Converse.
Yes, we understand to change that to Mr. Reeves. Any other additions or deletions? Okay. If not, all those in favor as the agenda is presented?
Aye.
Aye. Say aye. Any opposed? Agenda's set. Okay, down to public comment. Yes, Linda.
At the last planning commission meeting, Jim wanted to add fire officials to the list of people who can inspect properties under the zoning ordinance. Jim stated, and I quote, he wants to be able to enter any property we deemed hazardous or emergent conditions. So I looked up online what emergent conditions mean, and that simply means it's beginning to arise. So it's obviously a somewhat nebulous reason for wanting to enter personal property. He then explained that plastic over windows would be his reason for searching a home. What a ludicrous position, when there are places all over our state where people have bars on their windows, not just plastic. Fire officials don't go in and inspect homes because there's bars on windows, nor do they need to go because there's plastic. But this really isn't about the attempt to do a power grab. This is really, I want to publicly thank your planning commissioners. And I know Mr. Plato's going to be shocked, but I want to thank him for looking out for the citizens' interest. Mr. Plato informed Jim that night that any time that the township inspects property that we're pushing the envelope. And then he informed him that one generally needs a warrant to go onto someone's property. And rather than agree with the request to put draft language for what's clearly government overreach, and again, to create that language for Mr. Plato and your other consultant, it would have been billable hours. But instead, they protected our right to have homes free of government intrusion. And I'm quick, as you know, to criticize, and I've criticized Mr. Plato publicly, but I wanted to thank him tonight, along with the planning commissioners, for protecting my constitutional rights. So thank you, Mr. Plato, and thank you, Planning Commission. And thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for letting me speak.
All right, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Copy of that tape.
I'd be happy to provide you with a copy of the video.
No, here we go. All right, to the consent agenda, Mr. Wensley.
All right, I move that Salem Township approve the following consent agenda items. Starting with the minutes of last month, April 13th, I do have two changes that I have to change on the minutes. It would be where first is business item A number 2. I put the Flag Day event as June the 6th. It should be June the 5th. So if anybody's reading that, I'm sure it's on the website correctly and all that. So, but for the minutes, that will be corrected. And then item number 8, when the board appointed Bruce Reeves it needs to say more specifically than what I wrote, so I'll read it here. It says, motion by Mr. Wensley and seconded by Mr. DeLuca to appoint Mr. Bruce Reeves as the Township Board Treasurer to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Dale Converse. And so I will change that as well. So other than those two, those are the minutes. We have disbursements for April of the general fund of $76,785.93, payroll of $60,033.50, Paycor of $210.21, sewer fund disbursements $10,590.43, escrow fund $4,277.30, the MEDC fund $486,958.96, and then for the invoices for the month of May, out of the general fund of $71,680.59, the sewer fund $6,294.40, escrow fund $6,362.30, and the MEDC fund $609,345.33. So can I have a second on these?
I'll second. Okay, John Daniel seconds. Any discussion on the consent agenda from anybody? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Okay, first on the business items tonight is the Salem Bible Church, the Corn Fest. Mr. Winsley.
All right, I move that Salem Township approve the request of the Salem Bible Church to close McFadden Street on Saturday, August 21st, 2021 for the annual Salem Community Corn Fest between the hours of 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. per the resolution of 2021 5/11/01. Do you have a second?
I'll second
All right, any discussion? We're glad to have that back on their schedule. Hopefully everything goes fine so we can enjoy their annual Corn Fest there at the church. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, next on the agenda is the new deputy treasurer. Bruce, maybe I'll let Bruce enter.
Yeah, he could do the motion.
Who he's, or the motion, or just let him know who he's picked.
I'll read the motion and he can
Okay,
vote.
all right.
All right, so I move that Salem Township approve the following compensation pay schedule for the newly appointed deputy treasurer, Barb Thompson, effective May 1st, 2021. Her beginning pay rate will be $21.50 an hour. As well as we will move our temporary office worker, Christian Peluja, to part-time status as her new pay rate will be $16.50 per hour, and these will all be effective as of May 1st, 2021. Do we have a second on these?
I'll second.
EJ, okay, and any other discussion? Mr. Bruce, do you have any comments?
Well, my comments are those are two excellent people. I can't be any more pleased with how the people are very pleasant to work with in the office and very, very, very helpful. And Barb has been kind of keep me on my toes, checking things and making sure we get proper education and learning the new system, or not new systems to us, obviously, and make sure that we're being thorough with everything that we do. So, good appointment, in my opinion.
If you get a chance to come to the township offices during the day, which many residents do, it's just, we have, I guess I'm prejudiced, but we just have such a great office staff, people who are our number one, I believe, everybody works in the office up there. Our number one thing is to be responsive to our residents and to make sure that we can do everything we can by following the ordinances and doing what's right to facilitate our residents and making sure that, that things can get done and show them with respect. And I just can't say enough about our office staff, and I think this board appreciates them, and sometimes we don't talk enough about them, but I can rest assured that I don't get any calls in years of people who have been rude at the counter. It just means a lot, and it means a lot to me as being the supervisor of the township not to have people that can, a tendency maybe to be rude, so. I mean, I think the last thing we want to do is go to sometimes to, not picking on the Secretary of State's office, but, sometimes you can go into a place where, they just don't want to help you, and I just think we got a great staff, so I appreciate all of them, so. And if you haven't met Kristen yet, she's a great gal. She's been filling in well and learning well, helping and kind of coordinating the building department too, doing the permits and helping. So it's kind of like everybody kind of helps each other. Another one of the important things is of course, this last election was really burdensome to the office staff with all the extra AV ballots and making sure everything's right. But they did an excellent job, but what we want to see is when people come in, that they can get a ballot right away, that they're, everything, they're, being registered is correct in the computer, signatures are correct, and so that's working real well, so, again. Enough of that, but I just wanted to pass it on to you. All right, so next on our, oh, did we? We didn't vote? Oh, I just thought it was a shoo-in. All right, so we have a second?
Yes, TJ.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's passed. Okay, next is the road project. I move that Salem Township approve the local road project. It's item number 6 that the Washtenaw County Road Commission sent to us. This is a shared project with Superior Township at Joy Road in Dixboro. It's the approachment there that fails pretty good is people darting out on the 6-mile gravel and a lot of potholes to pave that area, and it would be a shared cost. Our cost would be $11,450, and then Superior would be paying the same for their section. And anyway, it approves me to authorize to sign the agreement with Washtenaw County. We have a second on this?
I'll second it.
Bruce Rees, seconds. Any other questions on this? Yes, sir.
Just
David.
curious, our friends in Superior Township are not interested in any of the other projects that are identified?
So I called the road commission today. I'm also, eager to get something done with Northfield Township on them sections of road that are really bad. TJ's road.
Yeah.
And, hopefully, whatever, if some of the stimulus money comes in, the projects are out there, but I've let Mr. Harmon know and the commissioners there that, we're definitely interested in sharing them projects with our neighbors to get them projects under control. And again, most of our roads our dirt roads are pretty well in good shape as far as the burning done, and we've kind of gone through all of them, so.
Are we under any time constraints as far as being able to
You know,
pull the trigger with?
Right,
the
usually it's the end of May, and we're just waiting from them, and they haven't heard back from our neighbors. But that was the only one that they jumped on right away.
As far as the Chubb Road projects, north and south of 7 Mile, is that something that we,
I'm sorry,
the Chubb Road proposed projects?
right,
North and south of 7 Mile?
so we proved that last meeting, correct? Yeah,
Oh, did we?
yes.
That was one that you said we did it 6 years ago on June.
Yeah, I think you
June
voted for it.
2012.
You already voted for it last month, Dave.
Oh, I said they never did it.
Yeah, them need to be done, them are, but they, we passed that last month. That was,
We still, I don't think we've approved this yet. Okay.
all right, so we have a second, right, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Is,
All right.
is Paul on the line or anything, or no?
No, actually Ed is here that was involved in these two ordinance changes or amendments. So,
All right, so I've got the first one, and TJ's got the second one. All right, so this is the motion to adopt the zoning ordinance of the exterior lighting, for exterior lighting. So I move that Salem Township adopt the zoning ordinance for Salem Township incorporated into the Salem Township zoning ordinance section 60.03 to recognize newer lighting technology and to further protect neighbors from glare and light trespass. Also included in this motion is the draft minutes of April 19, 2021 of the Planning Commission, review by our planner dated May 11th of 2021, and then the actual ordinance resolution. We have a second, and then we can talk about this.
I'll second it.
Mr. Reeves seconds it. And before we vote on it, Ed, you can comment on it. I'd like to just make a little comment of some of the problems that we've had in the past with some lighting. Some people are familiar with the situation, and the technology of lighting with the LED lighting has caused some issues in the residential districts of the bright lights. So there's really little that we could do until we amended this ordinance with some of the problems that has been going on with a few residents. So I'm glad that the Planning Commission took this under consideration and to make sure that it has to do a lot with, of course, the height of the, I think that it is somewhere in there we talked about, or it's in our ordinance now, the height of the poles, how high they can be, and then also interfering with other people's properties and stuff. So Ed, you got some more?
No, actually, our township planner, Paul Montagno, actually drafted I think almost all of this, so, but the intent of it is obviously to tighten up the existing ordinance that we have, to incorporate new technology that can prevent lighting from, can keep a dark sky, can prevent lighting and glare from going into neighbor's property. So it's just tighten it up and give more protection to the residents from neighboring properties and bright lights.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We might want to take a roll call vote on this, just for professional reasons.
All right, we have Daniel,
Yes.
DeLuca,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Reeves,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker.
Yes. Okay, next, home occupation.
I move that Salem Township adopt the zoning ordinance for Salem Township incorporated into the Salem Township zoning ordinance, section 40.204, to provide regulations for a medical marijuana caregiver as a permitted home occupation, with requirements designed to allow for the legal use while protecting the character of the residential land use. Also included the draft minutes of the 4/19/2021 Planning Commission meeting, the review by planner dated 5/11/21, and the ordinance resolution. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Bruce?
Yes.
Okay, seconds it. Just to give you a little update on this, again, I appreciate the Planning Commission addressing this. We do have some, we get a ton of phone calls of people that want to have a medical marijuana growth operation on their properties. But what's happening with this is that we're creating a lot of other issues of barns, old barns, and people giving them high rent to have these operations. And currently, we have some pretty big operations going on in our town. And they will buy something, kind of go under, like they're farming, like, so farms have certain protections if they're gonna farm. And we understand that, but, a lot of times they'll come in, I had one incident where, they grew trees, calling it a farming operation, but the facility that was on there, it's on the property, it's just, it's a big growth operation. So, we've, tried to handle it the best we can, but we need to tighten up our ordinances, and I'm glad that they went through this to help us so that, we can have a better control on, the operations that might be coming our way through Salem, so, anyway, we're working on the issues, some of the big issues that we have, and they're not giving us the proper information that they're doing the properties. We're having neighbors complain about the operations of the older issues and other equipment, and there's no permits been pulled. There's a lot of issues that we need to deal with, so I appreciate the planning commission addressing this, and hopefully we can get this under control. So,
Question, did it give us the right to inspect? I didn't see a lot of that wording, but
Yes.
we can inspect.
By virtue of them obtaining a permit, it gives township the right to go and inspect.
But only at the beginning, when the permit is asked for.
Well, also, if there's any reason to believe there's a violation of the ordinance.
Okay. Any other?
Just a little bit of homework is, apparently, the amount of, for medical marijuana that an individual, a single individual can do with their 5 people plus themselves, like 72 plants a person, so if there's 2 people in the home trying to use that, it's 144 marijuana plants. They need a barn to actually, a couple thousand square feet in order to grow that much marijuana. It's a lot, the home marijuana is a lot of product that they can be growing there. It's amazing how much is allotted just under that.
Yes, each primary caregiver, registered primary caregiver can supply marijuana for 5 registered qualified patients, so, and they can also, of course, if they're registered patients themselves, they can have marijuana for their own purposes, so, yes, they can have basically up to 72 plants on the premises.
Our ordinance, as it's drafted, allows up to 2 people in the home, but just the amount of space that's needed to do that much planting is, someone told me it's like a couple thousand square feet.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, I asked the question, how much would that take up, and it's like, it's a lot of space, so therefore, one of the limiting factors would be the percentage of the home that can be used for, I think it shows in here 25% of the home square footage could be used for that purpose, so that, hopefully keeps it from being quite as large of an operation.
Does it prohibit, like, say, one person having 5 barns in the township from growing 72 at each barn, but saying it's only one location?
So I think, and again, I'm apologetic because I was on that side of the table, but I think it has to be within the premise, it can't be in outbuildings.
Okay.
right, that was the other issue, because we literally have had these people come in the township and find older people who might need income, and offer them, hey, I can help you with that because of your taxes and that, offering them money for their outdoor building, and then have this is not medical marijuana purposes, they're just to have a big full grow operation. And a lot of times the people up in the residence don't even know I think they know, but if they're elderly, they don't. And but we're having a lot of these issues, and it just, you know, I've been there at some of the places, you see different cars from other states, and, you know, traffic, I don't think we wanna become known as that township that has these growing operations. So we gotta figure out how to try to outsmart them a little bit, to get this under control. And the ones that we have now, and now they're just kind of like, I think they know something's going on, but we just need something to have a stronghold on them that they're not allowed to have these kind of operations that are going on. And they're in buildings that aren't, there's no permits for them to have the equipment that they're putting on there that they have to have, and so we just need to tighten it up, so.
I've got a question.
Yes.
You can't ban it completely from Salem Township?
Well, medical, I know that we can't because it's a state law. But the, you know, distilleries and that kind of stuff,
Retail.
you know, that's banned in our township.
We have an ordinance that was passed
Right.
shortly after the last marijuana statute was passed. And the Salem ordinance prohibits any marijuana establishments within the township. But you can't prohibit registered qualified patients from consuming marijuana, and you can't prohibit registered qualified caregivers from supplying marijuana. So the statute, I mean, the ordinance is very carefully drafted to make sure those rights are protected if they're registered with the state as a caregiver or a patient.
If they're registered.
If they're registered. It
So
was-
who verifies it?
It was initially thought that, by the number of marijuana growers, that a local government could not regulate, you know, marijuana operation at all, as long as they had a procurement and registration card. So they challenged an ordinance in Byron Township, Michigan, that limited caregivers and patients to a home occupation situation in a residence, and also required a permit. That case went all the way up to the Michigan Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court approved their ordinance and said, yes, you can have it as a home occupation, you can have certain restrictions on it, you can require that they obtain a permit from the township. And so, when we drafted this ordinance for Salem Township, we very carefully followed that Byron Township ordinance that has already been approved by the Michigan Supreme Court.
So do we get to so we can't hire anyone from Michigan anymore? We have to go to Ohio to bring all production people.
No, I'm a farm, I can grow it at my farm and sell it in my store. Just teasing,
That's
just
what
teasing.
that's what
Just
those
teasing.
brownies
Yeah.
and donuts are all, yeah.
You put it in the donuts. It's good moneymaker, good moneymaker.
Gary, just a quick question,
Yeah.
just to clarify, is that the dwelling, is that if they have detached, can they grow on the detached, it's gotta be attached to that dwelling?
It's gotta be
To
attached.
that residence?
Gotta be attached.
So if they have a 2,000 square foot garage, they can convert that to a grow operation, basically?
Well, under, just the, whatever the caretaker's allowed to have.
You have to have an 8,000 square foot house to have a 2,000 square foot grow
There's
operation.
a few of those going up lately, go ahead.
But no more
Just a
than
question, yeah,
Yeah.
it clarifies it, okay, thank you.
But then the previous ordinance we passed, no one can sell anything.
Right.
Is that correct?
You can't have any growers or processors or distribution centers for marijuana in the township.
I had a wording question for Ed. Did you talk to Paul this afternoon? Because I had called him about just, so that, I just wanted to make sure this was the wording that didn't make a lot of sense to me. It's under the permitted home occupations. So the marijuana, medical marijuana is number 9 on it. So where it says the following uses shall be permitted, so number 9 says medical marijuana use by a registered primary caregiver. So like it just sounds like using medical marijuana is the occupation.
Well,
I mean, wouldn't it be more like production?
well, it can be consumption by qualified.
Right, but I mean,
Patient.
consumption of medical marijuana is not exactly, occupation.
All right. Well, the ordinance adopts the terms in the Michigan medical marijuana statute. And the
Okay.
marijuana statute defines medical use of marijuana, meaning the acquisition, possession, cultivation, manufacture, extraction, use, delivery, or transfer.
So that's considered use.
It's all considered under the general
Okay, I
category
just
of
wanted to make
marijuana.
sure the wording with that.
Correct.
Okay, so we have any other discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote on this, Mr. Winslow.
Daniel?
Yes?
DeLuca?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker?
Yes. Okay. Chief had a fire to go to, so. And, so, any updates, Mr. Treasurer, or new treasurer? Everything's okay? He's doing well, we really appreciate him, coming on board. Okay, and the, just regular general updates. Ed, if you wanna say anything about, Friday's hearing?
Yeah, as the residents know, there has been ongoing litigation between Showstack, Salem Township and Superior Township regarding the right to use the right-of-way through Superior Township to take our wastewater from the Salem Urban Service District down to the Echo plant in Ypsilanti. We've had 3 hearings in front of Judge Conlon. The first 2, he indicated he wanted more time and more briefing, that was provided to him. Then on last Friday, we were in front of him, hoping he'd make a decision, one way or the other, on whether Superior Township had unreasonably denied our application for a permit to run the sewer line. He spent most of the time last Friday telling us why he couldn't decide a number of issues. We had challenged their ordinance that, says that Salem has to first have a public emergency before we can run the sewer line through there. We said as a matter of law, that should be deemed to be unreasonable and arbitrary. He said he couldn't decide that issue, so he left that issue open. So basically, we're at a point now where we don't have a firm decision. There still is 1 count in the complaint left against Superior. That's a complaint for mandamus relief, by which we're asking the court to order Superior Township to grant the application. I'm not sure where that stands at this point. We're going to request a status conference with Judge Conlon to see where we go from here. If he's going to expect a full trial, I'm going to ask him to move that date up as soon as possible. Obviously, we want to get things accomplished so that we know whether we're going to have the right to use the right of way or not.
Has Superior actually reviewed the application and voted yea or nay?
Yes, they did. Yes.
They reviewed it and voted,
They reviewed it at the expense of our money and our escrow, and they took it to Superior Board meeting. They marshaled a number of residents and environmentalists to come out and speak out against our use of the right-of-way, and it was unanimously voted, the application was unanimously denied by the Superior Township Board.
Any other questions about this? So,
What do you know of the Judge Conlon? Is he, is he gonna side with them, basically? Is he lean that way? Is that how he normally leans? Very,
I don't know. It's actually the first matter I had in front of Judge Conlon, and none of the attorneys involved seem to have a lot of experience with him. So, we're not exactly sure where it's gonna go from this point. You know, we'll know more, I think, once we have the status conference with them and what our rights may be, what further proceedings we could take.
As always, I want to, make sure the public understands what this board is up against and what I think our township is up against. Not to repeat myself, but just in case anybody's watching that has not paid attention, but, early 90s or middle 90s when the master plan was set for the urban services district, that would be an area that would be supplied by sewer and water. And of course, this board has gone on record and also had the developer sign an agreement that this project that could be $30 to $40 million is not going to be spent from Salem Township's coffers. It's going to be by the people who own the land or developers of that property. And of course, the rest of the history as far as Showstack lobbied or whatever and got $20 million. It came to Salem. We've got them to sign a contract saying that they will foot this bill for this. So we have the monies. A lot of the monies are being paid for out of the grant money when it comes to the legal issues and everything that has been going on. So it's being paid by that. And then, as residents, all of us who live here and have properties, our former treasurer did a nice article in the paper that, just kind of took the value of somebody's property and what the price would be if we didn't have the revenue from the landfill, what our taxes would look like. Which was a kind of an eye-opener. It probably wasn't exactly right, but it just gives you an eye-opener of what it would be like if that landfill income doesn't come in. And none of us really know the future of the landfill and, if there's an expansion across the street or not. I'm sure it's going to come up again sometime. But if that does close and it stops, Salem really does not have, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, doesn't really have a tax base. So if this does develop down there, everybody I think would say, hey, it would be great just to leave it alone, let's keep it like it is, we're happy with that. But again, in reality, probably not in my lifetime, but we're gonna need some kind of tax base. And for our grandkids or kids or whatever, if you're staying in Salem Township. So hopefully there's some decisions made on this. The fearful thing that I'm fearful about, to be open, is that if there's not an avenue of getting the sewer to Yucca over in Ypsilanti, then the next thing would be is a huge wastewater treatment plant. And, and that's what I don't think our town needs. Yes, Linda?
Can you address, Gary, the timing of the grant monies as you guys go through this legal process?
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
Good question.
Yeah, that is you got the date right, Ed?
The grants, all construction is supposed to be completed at this point by September 30th of next year.
Thank you.
Ed, quick question about the future. Could another township ever annex that USD section over there if we hook up to any utilities that goes through their township? I've read some articles about that. Is that ever a possibility? Could Plymouth Township ever annex that area away from us?
My understanding is no, not another township. If another city maybe could, but not another township.
And what about a 452 agreement?
If we had a 452 agreement that could prohibit any type of annexation.
Right. That's like is that what that 452 is?
Right,
Agreement
it's
between
an
the,
interlocal agreement,
Right.
cooperative agreement, right?
even with police and fire and stuff like that, if you wanted to do that, right?
And just a quick question in regards back to the permit or denial. How is the county road commission reacting? How are they responses on the other parties in regards to Superior being somewhat bold as they are?
I don't know what the road commission's response was, probably surprised. I know when I talked to, Yucca, they were very surprised. They were surprised that Superior was even fighting it in the first place. Because Superior themselves have sewer pipes in the right of way going to Yucca.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know what the road commission,
Well,
what their feeling is about it.
Well, the road commission gave us a permit.
Yeah, they approved the
So
permit.
they approved the permit to come through.
As did the former MDEQ, which is now legal. After an extensive review, they also approved the permit.
Were any of those individuals at that hearing to, in a sense, be on our side to?
We had several engineers available to testify. We had reports from all the different engineers submitted to the court. So the court was aware of everything that was going on. The court was aware of all the permits that had been issued by the MDEQ and by the road commission. So the court is aware of all that.
In your eyes, would those not hold ground somewhat?
Well, I would like to somehow find a way to get it up to the Court of Appeals. As it stands right now, I don't think it's, to have an appeal as of right, you have to have a final judgment by the court, and because he really didn't decide finally, we don't have that. So there may be some options of asking the court to certify it as a final judgment, so we can take it up, or we have the option of possibly seeking appeal to the Court of Appeals by way of leave, by asking the Court of Appeals to allow us to appeal. So those are all things that we're discussing, different, avenues we can possibly take.
Thank you.
Yes. Bonnie, you were first.
Could you explain to me how residential property becomes a tax base when most townships say they have a tax base because they have commercial and whatever they call the manufacturing corporation type things, those are tax bases. People that pay residential taxes, generally, you have to provide more fire and more all the other things, police and everything, so they're actually costing you more than you're getting, than they're worth. So I don't understand how you consider, all these homes that are supposed to be coming in as a tax base. Please tell me.
Yeah, so, that whole area, 1,400 acres, is developed for commercial, residential, all kinds of different applications over there. So, there would be a tax base over there. The other things I had the attorneys, or at least I did get from Jerry Fisher, about the special assessment to a district, which is, according to his research and stuff that he's pulled together, that we can have a special assessment. The board is gonna have to address this, and I would say sooner rather than later, to get it on the books to where, when people build in that area, you can, if the expressway, if it's a conference center, or it's a hotel, whatever, the different things that might come to that area, that it would be in a special assessment district that can be charged for whatever we think it is, as far as police, fire, the sewer and the water. And, but again, the board's gonna have to address that. And, because it's been a concern of us, I've heard stories, well, if you're providing, fire for the rest of the township like we do now, it has to include them, but you can create a special assessment according to the legal stuff that the attorneys have given me. So that's what needs to be done for that area, so that it's not burdensome to the rest of us there in the area, so.
But doesn't a tax base mean that they would continue forever and on with putting in more tax money than they're taking, than they cost the township? Isn't it somewhere where we get tax money that, if it's a tax base, it covers the whole township? Like, okay, so Novi has big shopping centers, Novi has commercial buildings, and Novi has a tax base. We don't have a tax base here. Are you trying to tell me that they're going to put in commercial stuff in what's considered the USD?
Yes, multiple 14.
Yeah,
Now,
multiple.
didn't we just go through when you guys first came on, or before you came on, and they changed from having little commercial offices to a residential, and all I've seen at the planning commission, and I've been to most of them, is the people that wanna put houses in there.
Well, you're right, so stuff that like has been worked on, but all like Govertson Road, like where Carl's is, that's all, I would say, is all general commercial for other restaurants, express, there's different zoning that allows more commercial stuff than residential. Yes, Linda?
So Gary, in light of the timing that the grant money has to be used by September 30th of 2022, is there a possibility of an extension on that? Or is it done at that point? And if it is, do we have any plans, should we lose in court? So that that money just doesn't go away?
Well, we did get an extension on the first grant, of the first 10 million, correct? And so if it comes up to where it gets close again, the issue is how do we use, like right now I think we're probably, 11 million into, once the contracts that we've already issued, we're around 11 million right now. So, I don't know and this is just what goes through my head. So there's a pump station at Govertson and Joy Road. And that was put out for bid, and I want to say that was $2.5 million, something like that. So the push is to, hey, have that put in, spend the money, and let's use all this money up. But then again, my fear is that I don't think we want to build a white elephant somewhere where, you got pumps, they need to be run. If they're not being run, it's kind of like a white elephant. If we don't have a clear direction where this is going to go. And I think that's why we decided as a board not to vote on that when the bids went out a year ago or whatever.
And to answer Linda's question, we are hopeful that come next September, if we are moving things along and the project's continuing, that the state will extend the grant timing if they know we're in good faith working towards getting the project completed.
Thank you.
And that's kind of what they did on the first grant.
Right.
Any other updates or questions on that? All right, so we're down to public comment again. I'm sorry, what? Did I miss something?
Yeah, reimbursement on education, another motion.
Oh, yeah. So the chief is back. So under the fire department issues, we have the sale of the mini pumper fire truck. Jim, you want to touch on that?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So, as probably just to call to your attention, we bought that as a used truck from Northville. They had, I think, about 10,000 miles or so. We probably put about 40,000 or so on this truck. So we certainly got the $10,000 that we invested in this vehicle. But it's gotten to the point of where we're sinking a ton of money in it to kind of keep it going down the road. And it's time for us as an emergency vehicle to probably retire that, because our mechanic's done a lot of work to it, and he says there's a lot of work in its future, and it's probably not worth it. The body's starting to rust on it, although it's a nice stick shift, and some of the younger folks have never seen one of these trucks with a stick shift. And some of our older guys would just enjoy really driving it. We're making a recommendation to retire this truck from fire service, just because of the service that we use it in, and the arduous conditions that it works under. It needs to be retired. And that's the recommendation from our mechanic, and I concur with that recommendation.
Okay.
Should I read the motion on that?
Go ahead.
I move that Salem Township approve the disposition of the 1988 Ford F-350 mini pumper that was recently replaced, and to authorize Jim Rockwell to begin the advertising process with normal public placements and sealed bids. The board will approve the winning bid. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any rough dollar amount value or?
It's kind of hard to tell. You know, usually our trucks go to farmers, they use them for the water. This has got a mini pumper, so I think it's got 300 gallons of water, and it can go off road somewhat. So I suspect maybe one of the local farmers might gobble it up. I never know. It's a kind of surprising who takes and who doesn't take things. So we'll advertise it and see who wants it. Could get a fire restoration buff that wants to take it too and restore it. You never know.
No better time now, I guess,
Yeah.
with the way
Right.
the demand for used vehicles.
It has
Regardless of
some.
what they are.
It has some nice features. It's got a winch on it, I guess a stick shift. It's got a dual tandem on it. It's got 100 gallons. It's got some boxes. If someone wants to put some, TLC into it,
Sure.
they could probably, turn it into a working truck of something.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Okay, the new firefighter union contract, you want to talk about that all, Jim?
I do. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Converse, although he's not here, put a ton of hours in this. This is the second attempt to get a certified or a collective bargaining agreement agreed to. First collective bargaining agreement that the union and the township agreed to did not pass by the union membership. So we went back to the board. So it took us probably close to 2 years to rewrite this contract. Although there was not a lot of major changes to it, there is some pretty good tweaks to it. I put in there kind of a summary, high-level summary of the changes. The biggest thing I would say probably was the fact that we're eliminating the run participation stipend, if you will, that works based on participation and a calculating formula, which took a lot of hours to do. And that was a minimum of $5.08, if I remember correctly. And we proposed just to give a $4.50 across the board. Just that's the pay. If you work hours, you get paid that, as opposed to a stipend of $5.08 or more, depending on the people participate at more than 20%. We also cleared up some of the probably the areas of grayness, if you will. One of the big areas we added in there was if you don't participate, you don't get your longevity bonus. So in the past, we've had people that have not really shown up for calls and been on the department for 20 years and would collect their money without really much active participation. This contract requires that they do a minimum of 10% and a full 20% before they would get their longevity. And we've got a pretty senior department. We've got a department that has a number of firefighters who've been on for quite some time. The other thing that would be changed would be that the assistant chief position would no longer report to the union. It would be reports to the board. So they would be like myself. They could enforce discipline. They would be responsible to the board. The union still wanted some situations where that they would have to be coming from the union, meaning that we couldn't hire an outside firefighter. They want a hiring process where we would have them go through some testing and some verbal and written testing. But at the end of the day, it would be the board that would select the assistant chief if so approved, and the assistant chief would report to the board as I do, as opposed to beholden to the union, if you will. The other thing is that we asked that the current township training policy, which is very generous, be rescinded. It's a board action, and that the collective bargaining agreement would take its place for education for firefighters. The difference in that would be is that a firefighter would have to take a class that's related to the fire service or medical service, as opposed to right now they could take a class like basket weaving, And per our current township policy, we would reimburse that. So it kind of more focuses it back onto the township. Not that fast food is a bad thing, but I just don't see the fire department needing to pick up those costs. That's really kind of a summary, like I said, real high. The union members, the firefighters, have not received a pay raise in a couple of years. And so this does have a signing bonus tagged into it to kind of accommodate that and also sweeten the pie for them to approve the contract. And that was one of the big feedbacks that we had gotten that the first one didn't get approved from. So I think that's the big things. There are some nuances that are really, just kind of tightening things up. I don't know if anybody got a chance to read the whole contract. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Okay, any other questions on the contract?
Just the signing bonus eliminates retroactive and going back 2 years, or is that in addition to?
So, great point. Thanks, Bruce, for bringing that up. So the signing bonus would be a one-time thing. This contract would be retro to April 1st for the pay raise. This would eliminate the quarterly run stipends. So it puts it in the right quarter to make sure that we just go forward, eliminate that, the run stipend bonus, if you will. So to your answer, I guess the 550 would be a signing bonus that would be for the 2 years that they've been kind of without a contract.
Right, thank you. Answered it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Leslie.
I'll read the motion. I move that Salem Township approve the new union contract as detailed in the attached Salem Township Fire Department's agreement. We have a second on this union contract.
Have a second? I'll second.
Here.
Okay, any other more questions? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion's passed. Am I forgetting anything else tonight?
Mr. Supervisor,
Yeah.
sorry.
I can't see it. What else did I forget?
Just the motion for education.
Oh, okay.
So I'll make the motion and then Jim can speak to it again. I move that Salem Township approve the written policy for reimbursement of tuition and books as described in the Salem Township's Fire Department updated union agreement.
All right, Reggie seconds it. I think Jim has already touched on that, so any other discussion?
Just a quick
Yeah.
question. I'm trying to remember, is the reimbursement of education for firefighters an addendum? Because I don't see that it's specifically laid out in the contract itself.
So the existing policy is a township policy that we're following.
Right.
The new policy would be in the collective bargaining agreement that says it right under education, the section for education.
So it's going to be integrated into that,
Correct, it's in the CBA.
under education.
Let me call it out for the right page that you're in.
So medical training and licensing?
It's gonna be, some of it's gonna be there, obviously that's related to, training. I think it's gonna be under medical training and licensing, as you see it, and it's section 2, basic training. And section 3, so all of that whole section, medical training and licensing. And in the past, there was a caveat that any firefighter could take any class that they wanted, and the department theoretically would have to pick it up. So we've had requests, like, I wanna go to Hawaii to do a class. No. I want to go to Hawaii to take a class.
So it sounds like the reimbursement policy is being integrated into the contract.
As well as what they can take. So the two caveats, the reimbursement policy as well as the what classes they're approved to take.
To be clear, we need both documents, this plus what's in here,
You need to rescind the,
which is not part of this motion.
correct, well, it is. We're asking you to rescind the township policy for education, which is not in the board packet. And you've already adopted the CBA, so really I'm asking is to rescind the township policy that currently resides for education. So that's not, firefighters are not eligible for that. Does that make sense?
It does, except in part of my packet, I've got this 2 pages that's.
Right,
Is that the current one that we're rescinding then?
I don't know if that was included in the package or not.
I don't know if the motion is written correctly.
Yeah, there's motion.
So what I'm asking the board to consider is the recension of the current township education policy,
I'm with
which is
you.
not it doesn't appear to be attached to this document.
I understand what you're asking for, and it makes sense. I just don't know if we've written it correctly. It's the motion.
Right, so we're gonna have to add, if that's what we want to do, we'll have to approve, to rescind the current township education policy, and then to accept this new reimbursement.
The new reimbursements in the collective bargaining agreement, so you don't need to do that. I think what I gave you and sent you was our current township education policy.
And that's in the,
That's what
that's
we're
in the
rescinding.
contract.
No, no.
What?
That's in the regular.
That's a copy of our regular order, yes.
This is what we're rescinding is these 2 pages, and accepting these what's in here.
Right,
Oh, we're rescinding these.
correct,
Okay.
This is current.
correct. I just provided a copy of the township policy in case it's hard to locate. Sometimes they're hard to dig up.
Understand.
All right, how do you want us to do this then?
Well, if the policy is now included in the collective bargaining agreement, which the board has approved, then you have the policy as part of the contract, then what you need to do is bring a motion to rescind the reimbursement of education for firefighters policy, so that there's no conflict between that and the collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. Okay, so I move that Salem Township rescind the current township education policy, the current reimbursement of education for firefighters policy. That's what we want to rescind. And that's the motion. Reggie,
Yes,
do you want to?
yes, accept that.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so we have our second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I understand it. Okay. All right. Did I forget anything else? Thanks, Reggie.
Mr. Supervisor, can I just make some notes on the calls we've had? We had a really busy
Sure.
month, if you don't mind, just, so the month of April was, as I said, was pretty busy. We had 52 calls, and those are documented in your board packet. Kind of notable calls is we've had a number of accidents at that 8 Mile and Curry construction, including possibly one drunk driver who overturned and right in the middle of the intersection. We also had a brush fire from consumers with their pickup truck in the middle of the field. And we had to call from each way from Superior for their gator and Ann Arbor Township for their gator because we couldn't get trucks back in the field. Hence why the pickup truck got stuck out so far in the field. And then the third thing is we actually had a save with our CPR machine, the Lucas, where we actually brought a patient back to life with CPR from the Lucas machine. And at least when the patient was dropped off in the emergency room, they had a pulse. So all those are the notable things that we had this month in April.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now we're down to public comment. Lastly, nothing? All right, folks, well, thank you for your patience tonight and being here tonight, and we're adjourned.
All those kids are just going.
Hey, what's up?
Area watch.
See you, buddy.